I don't just talk about other people's stuff, I also make my own. Books in particular. To date, I have 4 books you can check out on Amazon. Operation Red Dragon: The Daikaiju Wars Part 1, Occult Mafia, Emerald of Maddox City, and the short story collection Assorted Absurdities, Tales of Kaiju Punk and Other Genres. Hop on down to the description for Amazon links to all 4 books. Enjoy whichever ones you read, and enjoy the video.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I am the Omni viewer, and I feel like I just ran a marathon because I just finished watching part 3 of the Colossaeus Trilogy. That's part of PRIMAL's 2nd season, and my word, this has got to be one of the most harrowing episodes of the entire show. It's not necessarily the most violent, it's maybe not even the most harrowing if you really put it on a scale, but like, it may not top the list, but it's definitely in the top 3 at least. I mean, I am feeling such a sense of relief and yet also a sense of dread because of how it ends. But okay, let's back up a moment. The episode actually started in kind of a weird way. It made sense eventually, but my first thought was that it was a weird, unusual way to start the episode. Because after we get the title sequence that's at the beginning all the time, the episode proper opens with a bunch of money shots of the ship itself and its oars. Just, we're watching it going through, watching the oars propel it forward, and it's kind of a weird way to pick up the episode given where the last one ended. And given that we already have seen this thing, we already know what it is, how it works, it just felt weird. And then, of course, that leads right into how apparently we're not going to see the end of the fight that was going on at the end of episode 2. We just have to assume that Fang, Spear, and Mira all basically surrendered of their own accord, or maybe Kamau was forced into getting them to surrender. Kamau is the giant's name, by the way. I made sure of that this time. But still, we're not going to actually see how that fight played out. So, weird way to start it, but also a very intense way because Kamau is now going to be the executioner of these 3 troublemakers, starting with Fang. And they really milk the tension for you. All these different shots showing you all the different important things, expressions, and you just watch as Kamau goes over to Fang, who's chained down, still defiant, but unable to do anything. He raises the axe above his head, and then the flashback comes, and we finally learn how Kamau and his daughter got stuck in this situation. It's actually pretty interesting. We learn that Kamau actually comes from a race of giants. At the very least, the men are giants. But they are exceptionally tall people, exceptionally burly people, so sorry, folks, but if you thought that the city he slaughtered in the 2nd episode against his will was the place he came from, apparently it's not. Anyway, it was a similar culture, though, not necessarily as far along because it didn't have buildings, not stone buildings anyway, but it was an agricultural farming community, very peaceful, and Kamau himself was a very gentle man who literally would not hurt a bug, a spider specifically, but, you know, we saw that violence was not his answer to everything. He was like the opposite of Spear and Fang. Then again, his community is such that he never actually had to be violent until the Egyptians showed up and threatened his little girl, at which point the proverbial gloves came off. He was willing to be violent, but only for a very particular reason, and that reason was his daughter. Hence why the queen got her hands on that girl and forced him into a position where he was now, well, what we saw in all the other episodes. It's a good characterization. It shows us that he really is a sympathetic character. I mean, we already knew that, let's be honest. We knew he was being forced again to do this against his will. He didn't want to be her slave, yet he was, because she had his daughter captive. But seeing how he used to be before all of that really sent the message home, left no doubt. And maybe that's part of the reason why we didn't see how he affected the battle in the last episode, because if they started off by showing that he had turned on our heroes only to then go with them for the rest of the episode, that might have been a little inconsistent. I don't know for certain. I don't think it necessarily would have been that big of a deal if we'd seen both of those aspects of him, but this way he remains totally sympathetic. And this also seems to be the point where he's finally just had it. He's not, it's like he realizes he's not alone anymore, and he's also got a giant axe in his hand. So he does not waste the opportunity. And what ensues is one of the most harrowing battles in the entire series. I mean, at this point, you guys know, I am all in with this series. I am very invested in what happens to these characters, but I've also known in the back of my mind that none of them are technically safe. Spear and Fang have the best chance of being safe because they are the protagonists, but Mira, the hatchlings, I mean, we already got one hatchling killed before it even had a chance to hatch. They weren't guaranteed to make it, which is what really had me on edge. Kamau wasn't necessarily guaranteed either, nor his daughter. We want them all to make it out, of course, but will they? That's what has you on the edge of your seat. I was on the edge of my seat, certainly. And man, just every single time it seemed like the queen might gain the upper hand. I don't actually bite my nails, but if I did, there wouldn't be anything left on my hand up to this point. Because, my word, the queen has proven herself to be very effective. So seeing her now in a position where she's getting thwarted, that was satisfying, but also knowing that she wasn't going to stop until she found a way to fight back. And she actually does get the upper hand on Spear quite a few times with some, ironically, some really painful looking stuff, like cutting his fingers so he'll drop the Kopesh spear, I guess you would call it. Yeah, I'm stumbling over myself. Maybe we need to take a little bit of a break here so I can recover. Okay, let's see if I can make it through now. So, it's a harrowing battle, but again, we also know that not all the characters are guaranteed to be safe. So, that raises the question of, will they make it through? Kamau and his daughter actually, they wind up leaving the fight on the main deck, and Kamau's daughter guides him to the bowels of the ship, where we see that all the other men in his tribe, I mean, they all are big burly giants like him, so they must be, they were not all killed. They're the ones rowing the ship. And it starts to make a little more sense why they would have opened the episode the way they did, with the focus on the oars, to remind you that someone has to be operating those things, and now we know who. And the sight just appalls him. So now he's really ready to keep fighting again. It's implied at first he might have just wanted to take his daughter and get the heck out of Dodge. Now he's going to stay and he's going to keep fighting until his people are free. Meanwhile, up on the main deck, something, I mean, I'm stumbling again, but it's just that this episode was so intense. An arrow hits one of the hatchlings, and then when that happened, I audibly gasped. I'm watching the episode alone. No one is there to hear or see my reactions. I'm not even recording my actions for uploading or anything, yet I still went, when I saw that. I inhaled a little too sharply. So that happened, and I was like, oh no, don't tell me another one of them is dead. He's not, or she's not, it's not. Whatever that thing is, still alive, which was a relief, but now the danger is really back, and it's clear that the battle's just getting too much. And so Mira takes the charge of making a difficult choice. They have to retreat. There's not many places they can retreat because they're on a boat in the middle of the ocean, and who knows how close they are to land. But there's no other choice. She grabs a hatchling and gets ready to jump. Spear is right behind her, grabbing the other one. Fang follows behind them. They're in the water, and they're not out of the woods yet because now the oars are still coming. And now the episode's opening makes sense. It wasn't just planting the idea of somebody is operating those oars, but also giving you a sense that the oars are important. They're actually dangerous now. Those things are so big and so heavy that they could just crush all of them. And that, of course, leads us back inside where Kamau is fighting the soldiers and the other slaves notice. And just seeing him fight is enough to get their spirits back up. And it's a full-on rebellion aboard that ship. And finally, the queen is taken care of. Like, after Spear and Mira and Fang and the babies are out of danger, they also board one of the other, like, landing craft ships and free the slaves on there. And then Kamau faces off with the queen, and the queen is one of those villains, like, she truly is evil. Like, we've established that at this point. She is a greedy, ruthless, vile being. And we've wanted her to get her comeuppance. And Kamau delivers. He does not hold back. She tries fighting him, and for the first time, she's helpless. She dies pretty nastily, and I think we can all agree she deserved it. It was... That was finally the moment where all the tension left. It was over. And now I'm just coming down from that, and I'm like, that was a ride. A half hour solid, just on the edge of my seat, and it's over, finally. Except it's not. The episode allows us just a few fleeting moments of peace where we get the sense that things are fine. Kamau's people are free. They're gonna figure out some way to get back to what they had before. Kamau's daughter still loves him. That was actually a very touching moment where, like, again, entirely without dialogue, midway through the episode, as they're making their escape, Kamau has this silent exchange with his daughter where you can tell his thoughts are, I am a monster. You have seen me do such horrible things. Even if it was to protect you, I wouldn't blame you if you never forgave me for any of that. And silently she just says, you're my dad. I'll always love you, and I do forgive you. It was so touching, and we get the sense that they're going to be okay as they're watching Spear, Fang, and Mira sail off. The babies are fine. They seem to have recovered fine. They seem to know where they're going. And as they leave, Kamau carries his daughter The camera follows them, red light in the distance. Oh, crud. It's the fire demon. Almost forgot about him. He is walking on water like some twisted demonic inversion of Jesus Christ. And we know what he's gonna do. And then you remember there's another episode. At least one more. What is gonna happen? I have no idea how this will end. I am bracing myself for the worst. I'm still hoping for the best. I want these characters to get their happy endings. This episode has actually demonstrated that you can get a happy ending, even if it's not a complete return to the status quo, even if you've been through hell, you can still make it through and find some level of peace. This has been demonstrated. I want that to happen for our protagonists. I wanted nothing but that for them from the moment the first episode debuted. Will it happen, though? Or will this show pull the rug out from under us again at the last moment? Or will it be some combination? I really don't know. All I can do is brace myself for it. And I advise all of you to do the same, because there's another episode coming next week. It's going to be that confrontation, I'm pretty sure. Looking at the schedule, I don't see anything listed after that, so that might be the end of the season and may very well be the end of the series. We are in for another wild ride, I think. And at this point, I can't really think about that. At this point, all I can do is just be glad that this particular adventure is done and that our heroes came out okay. And may they remain okay. Well, on to next week. Until such time as we meet again, this is the Omni Viewer signing off.
Congratulations, you reached the end. If you enjoyed this video, you might want to consider supporting us on Patreon. Of course, the other way to support us is to go to Amazon and check out our books: Operation Red Dragon, The Daikaiju Wars Part 1, The Occult Mafia, Emerald of Maddox City, and Assorted Absurdities, Tales of Kaiju Punk and Other Genres. Also check the description for links to DeviantArt and other platforms we operate. Thank you all for watching. We'll see you next time.